All right, we're back with another episode of Carolina Closings this week, talking to Kristen Hall with eXp Real Estate here in Charlotte. Truly a pleasure to be with Kristen. She's a fantastic agent, been in real estate 8 years full time, at the same time balancing a growing family, serving her clients day by day with that. She's helped over 80 families in those 8 years buy and sell real estate, and is also what I would define as a very modern real estate agent, where she's been a three-time top 100 agent in North Carolina via Property Spark for social media. So, Kristen, welcome to the show. We're pumped to hear what you got to tell the people today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, Kristen, let's dive into it. Tell us your story of how you got into real estate and how we are here 8 years later.
Yeah, so I came into real estate by way of hospitality. I worked in the restaurant industry for 11 or 12 years, up until I had my first children, my twins, and realized that the late nights and the hours weren't going to cut it being a new mom. And so after I had my twins, I took about a year off, but once they were one, I went and got my real estate license, just knowing that I wanted to get back out in the workforce, and I thought that real estate would be a great way for me to still interact with people on the level that I did when I was bartending and waiting tables, but also helping them achieve their dreams of becoming homeowners. And so it started out in Colorado, where my twins were born. And once we moved here to North Carolina, I quickly got my North Carolina real estate license, and I hit the ground running as a solo agent. And here we are 8 years later, and every year it gets better and better. And I'm just so happy to be living out my dream and doing what I love.
Awesome. Well, can you talk about, that's quite a transition, right? To go from Colorado to North Carolina, where you don't know anybody, and real estate is all about how many people do you know and how many people can you talk to? How'd you go about, building up a network here in North Carolina when you guys made the move?
Yeah, good question. I really leveraged my kids a lot. When you are able to go to mom groups and different parenting groups, you meet a lot of people. And then your kids get into sports and you meet even more people. And you just really develop relationships with people in a natural way. And once they get to know you and get to know what you're doing, that business comes afterwards, right? But it's really about building up relationships in the beginning. I remember my first 2 years in real estate, I never joined a team. I tried to go at it on my own and do it on my own, but I quickly realized that I'm not going to grow until I get some help. So once I had gotten my coach, I was able to really grow my business from the ground up. And from there, I started associating myself with agents in Charlotte that I looked up to. I watched on social media, and I started putting myself in these rooms, right? Like, I'm all about being the small fish in the big pond. I mean, I am absorbing all the information, all the energy from these rock star agents. And here I am 8 years later, working with one of the agents that I followed for many years and really looked up to.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll talk to that, right? So are you still doing coaching today in 2026 or?
Yeah, so I don't have, I would say, a coach at the moment, but when I joined EXP under Andy Greisinger, he's my mentor.
Okay.
And when you join EXP, you have a downline of agents, and Andy's mentor is Joe Turco, and he's out of Boston. So I have Joe and Andy in my phone. I can text at any time of the day. It's like having $10,000 a month worth of coaches in your back pocket. And so even though I don't have an official coach, my mentors are the ones that have really helped me grow my business over the past few years.
And associating yourself with people like that is so important. I don't know Joe, but if you live in Charlotte, you probably have an idea who Andy is if you have an Instagram account, right?
That's
with
right.
anything real estate related. So that's wonderful. How did you guys form your relationship?
I would say for Andy and I followed him on social media for a while, and then I remember being at an event that he was at, and introducing myself just within the circle of agents that were there. And then we became friends on Instagram, commenting on each other's stuff. And then Andy had just reached out to me one day and asking, how I was doing at my previous firm. And at the time, I was actually looking to make a change. And so that's how that relationship started. And then I really just leaned into everything that Andy and Joe were teaching me. And the key as an agent, especially a newer agent, is to be coachable, right? So I took advantage of everything that they had to offer and put the work in. So one thing that I really learned in that process was, when people offer you promises, run from them, but when they offer you opportunity, run towards it. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, and you're not shy at all as coming through on this podcast right now, but there's the famous saying of shy real estate agents got skinny kids, right? So good, good on you for putting yourself out there and saying, hey, if I associate with these people who are doing it at a high level, I'm just going to have the ability to grow alongside them too. So that's cool to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I walked into the rooms, I went to the conferences, I just put myself in there when no one knew me and I knew nobody else. And it organically happened.
Cool.
So
Let's talk about Charlotte, in greater Charlotte area, in the market. What's going on right now? We're shooting this kind of beginning of February timeframe. What are some trends that you're noticing on, we'll start on the buy side and get into the sell side as well.
Yeah, so on the buy side, so I'd just like to say, ever since COVID, I feel like our spring market has kicked off in February around this time. We're one of those markets nationally that just has not slowed down since 2021, regardless of what other areas are doing. And so I'm seeing a lot of uptick, especially with buyers. Interest rates, did drop a month ago. I know they're creeping back up a little bit, but I think when they dropped and they saw that 5 in front of the number, they really were like back out there. So I have actually had buyers in multiple offer situations in every price range. So for my first time home buyers in that 350 to 400 price range, and I've also seen it in 1 million and plus. And I think those types of situations that we're seeing is just a pre-course to what we're going to really see come spring, May and April.
Yeah, I think that lines up really well with what we saw just on the mortgage side too. When that headline rate started with the 5, granted, it was for about 48 hours, but when it did, it really drove a ton of interest from buyers. So it feels like that pent-up demand is building, and yeah, it's up a hair, but it's basically where we were to end the year, right? It's not like we've gone up like crazy, like 7% again, where we saw that 2 years ago, right?
No.
Still down about 1% from 12 months ago, which is great for buyer demand. And let's talk about sellers digesting this. It seems like the market is a little bit different than what it was maybe 6 months ago in Charlotte.
Yeah, definitely. I'm still educating my buyers all the time on the market and the fact that we aren't in 2021 and 2022 anymore, and we have to price accordingly. And having those conversations up front and setting those expectations is what is going to help you not only earn those listings, but sell them quickly for them and for the most money. And on the sell side, the conversations, about updating the home and making sure that things are fixed within the home, show ready, photo ready, it is where they're going to get the best ROI. So educating them on the little updates and improvements that aren't going to break the bank, but are definitely going to make a huge difference when they're selling their home. And even though that there's still technically not a lot of inventory, our buyers still have options, but they're also not settling. So the sellers have to realize that even though there might not be a lot of homes on the market, the buyers still aren't going to pay when they don't see the value in the home. So on the sell side, like I said, getting it show ready, pricing it correctly, and doing those small upgrades and improvements.
What do you say to? Excuse me, sorry. What do you say to a seller that is, just wants to list at a higher price point than what the market's dictating, and let's see how it goes. Maybe there's one buyer out there that will pay it. How do you approach a conversation like that?
Yeah, well, I need to ask them, what's your timeline? What are your goals when selling this house? And if they need to sell it quickly, then I'm going to let them know, pricing it above market is just not going to work statistically. It's going to sit there for X amount of days, and I'll show them the numbers. I'm a big numbers person, and the data doesn't lie. So when I go to a listing appointment, I have all of my data lined up from the MLS, from the statistical module that we have as a part of our MLS, to show them that these are the trends going on in the market in your price range. And so if you so choose to list it above market, here's how long it's going to spend on the market. And then also you're going to, be running into multiple price drops. And when you're doing multiple price drops, in the eyes of the buyers and the consumers, they're thinking either one, it's overpriced, or two, something is wrong with it. And then your house almost gets lost in the algorithm. It's like social media for homes, right? Like your listing is fresh, it's new. That's our time to grab hold of it and really market it and get it out there and try to get as many buyers as possible that first weekend. But once you let your house sit on the market and you start having multiple price drops, that's when it kind of gets lost in translation. It's not that fresh new listing anymore. And buyers are also going to see that. Then they're going to offer even less than what we have it listed at. So you really have to walk them through all those steps and lay it out for them in that scenario. And most of the time they're like, okay, let's list it for what you suggest.
Awesome. You kind of hit on this, and from other conversations we've had with agents on this podcast, is there a time frame where you say, hey, we need to talk about, maybe it is a price reduction or offering a concession? I've heard 7 days, I've heard 14 days, and I've heard 30 days. Is there a timeline that you have that seems to work well?
Yeah, I think the timeline all depends on location, price point, and the seller's needs. So when we set the price, if they say to me, hey, we need to move this in 45 days and we don't have any offers within 2 weeks, we're doing that price drop. And when we're talking about price drops and price points, a $5,000 price drop at a $300,000 price point is going to move the needle a little bit, but a $5,000 price drop at a $800,000 price point is not going to move the needle. So those are also specific situations that we have to kind of deal with and explain to them what price drop is significant enough to get a new demographic of buyers to come look at your house.
So just to follow up on that, right? Because that's a really interesting point. Can you educate the listeners on how, hey, if we're at like a firm number of 300 or 800, for example, how starting that even at $799 or $299 can bring in a whole a different set of buyers that may not even know your house exists on a listing?
So when you're pricing it and people like the buyers on the MLS, if they're looking like up to 800 or 800 and above, and you listing it at $799 will capture all of the people that are going up to 800. So you have to be strategic about the way you price things and the demographic of people that are coming in. I think more so it's with the price drops that brings in more people. So if you're 800 and above, you're not capturing the people that are looking up to 800.
Right.
And some buyer agents out there will educate their buyers on how sellers price, and sometimes we will mess with the numbers a little bit to give them that different range. But yeah, dropping it under, even when you're at like 800, just putting a 7 in front of the number, kind of like we were talking about with interest rates. It's a psychological thing, and people are like, oh, this is a great deal. It's under $800,000. Meanwhile, it's $799.9, right? But to the eyes of the buyer, they think that it's a good deal. So yeah, just having those conversations about price drops and listing before it even hits the market, and having that plan ready to go so there's no surprises to the seller, that's going to be key.
You nailed it from the psychological standpoint, right? I laugh about this all the time. 5.99 and 6%. You know what the monthly payment difference is? $1.
Yeah.
But there is something so psychological about seeing that lower number up front that gets buyers excited, and people that are financing excited about, well, I get to say it starts with a 5, or I get to say it started with a 7 instead of an 8, right?
That's right. Yep. And I think, for a while there, we were not seeing buyers lowball sellers. They were actually just sitting on the back burner waiting to see if there was a price drop. Where in his other markets, buyers had no problem coming in 10, 20, 30,000 under just to see what happens, right? Just to bite at it and kind of see. But a lot of buyers there for a minute, they were like, nah, let's just kind of see what happens with this house. And there was no rush. There was no urgency. And I think that was more around the time of like fall going into the holidays. Now, buyers are making offers all over the place, no matter what the price says. So that's exciting news.
I agree. I think that this past December holiday period was uh, relatively what we would call more traditional in terms of activity, but it had just been 7 or 8 years since it had been like that. So there's probably how did you kind of manage some seller fears during that time period there?
Yeah, so my sellers during the holidays were pretty much serious sellers, so we had to price accordingly, and they knew that, and I had no problems with getting my sellers to list during the holidays, and then everything went under contract in January. So it was very strategic, the way that we did it, but and I set the expectation of longer days on market just because Thanksgiving, Christmas, there's that week after Christmas, in between Christmas and New Year's, where no one really knows what's going on, what day it is, what time it is. Some people aren't even working that whole week. So, they knew all of that. And then came January, we were able to get all of those listings under contract actually and have them all close in February, which when I set up the expectation in November was going to be at least 60 days on market.
Yep, that makes sense. And that's so
Yeah.
important for a seller to be aware of that going into it, right?
Mhm.
Well, hey, if we think this is going to sell in a week, then we set the expectations incorrectly. But if we say 60 and we get 60, you did your job fantastic, right?
Exactly. That's right. Yes. Yes.
So we see all these statistics all the time of 160 people move to Charlotte every day. You've been through it. You're from New York, moved to Colorado, moved to North Carolina. Are you still feeling a lot of relocation people coming into the Charlotte market?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people relocating from the north, which I have seen in the past 4 years happening. But now people that are moving from the west as well, California, Texas. It's funny, actually, Dallas is one of our feeder markets. So I do research on markets that are feeding the Charlotte area as well as the markets that Charlotte is feeding. So who's coming here from where are Charlottenians going? And that's a great opportunity to reach out to agents in those markets and, start those relationships. But yes, a lot of people relocating and a lot of people relocating from the north that have an expectation that is no longer here in Charlotte, right? The expectation of getting a 4,000 square foot house for under $500,000 has come and gone, and that was during the COVID inflation. And so people get down here and we have to reassess their buying power and what they're willing to spend on a home because they get down here and it's not really what they expected it to be because Charlotte has just grown so much and our housing is in such high demand. We see a lot of apartments going up to house people while they look for a place to live, while they build here. And that's kind of what I've seen from out-of-staters.
What are you hearing from them that are coming out of state? Like what's driving them to pick Charlotte from a Dallas, right? Why are they coming to Charlotte in particular?
Yeah, so our booming economy here, we have a lot of businesses that have moved and are moving here to Charlotte. Charlotte has been named on like the top 5 cities to move in on Zillow and Realtor.com and all those third-party companies that people, I think they see it on social media, really. I think they see we are in the top 5 markets on all these different platforms. Everything that we have going on in Charlotte, the growth of the city, our sports teams, it's a big finance city, everything combined. And also, I guess if you're speaking nationally, statistically, probably a lower cost of living than a lot of the places that these people are coming from. And I know a lot of people that have lived in Charlotte for a long time don't probably think that's true because they feel like the cost of living has gone up. But when you're looking at other states like California, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, down here is more affordable. I also think people coming from the north, we're a halfway point to Florida. So I think they come down, they spend a little time here, they're able to travel down south a little bit quicker, but then also they wind up moving in the next 15 to 20 years down to Florida to make that their final stop. So a lot of people move here intermittently. And the biggest reason that I've seen people move from anywhere in the United States is to be closer to family.
Yeah, that's always a big driver, right?
That's it.
I think what they call the people from New York is halfback, right? When they move to Charlotte. We
That's
get
right.
halfway. We get halfway back to the north and go to Charlotte. Although, sitting here in February, Charlotte's been acting like the Northeast with all this snow. So
Yeah,
hopefully that'll get the heck out of here ASAP. It's
I'm
going
all
to
done
change
with
the
that.
narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, they can keep their snow. I will say I've had a handful of people that have moved down here that have moved back to New York.
Okay.
And because they miss the culture, they miss the food, they miss the
Mhm.
hustle and bustle, they miss the city, they miss all of that. And I'm like, they miss the weather, and that's just for some people, but for the majority of them, once they're down here for a little while and they get acclimated, they have no problem calling it home.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned family is a big driver. You have a big family. You have a very busy real estate business.
Mhm.
How do you balance the two?
That's a really good question. I get asked that all the time, and I don't think I have an exact formula or recipe on how I do this. I just wake up and I try my best to be the best mom and the best agent to my clients. And I think that keeping a clear mind for me is exercising, cooking for my family, setting boundaries with both my clients and my family's expectations of me. That all has helped me to be able to grow my business while also being a great mom and a great wife, and running a whole household and doing all that. And the more confident I feel in both aspects of my life, the better it gets, right? I lean into the people around me to help me on both sides. So whether that's, professionally or personally, my husband, my extended family, my mentors and my coaches, I lean into those people to help me because once I feel that I am succeeding at one thing or another, it just keeps growing. And I think the biggest thing that I mentioned is setting expectations and time limits, and and building those relationships outside of both.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful because, as you know, if we don't set those limits, this business can consume us. Right?
And it has, yep. So I had to make sure that those boundaries were set, and I think my clients respect me more for it, and I think and my kids respect me more for it.
Yeah.
Kids love structure as much as they may not say it or act like it. Structure and the feeling I think that makes them feel safe, and they respect me more for it. And so I think, yeah, that's probably the most important.
Awesome. That's wonderful, right? And I think the majority of humanity embraces structure. There,
Yes.
there's a couple people out there that thrive in the chaos, but the vast majority enjoy that structure. And I mean, I don't know if you felt this, but when I was younger in my career, I always felt like I have to be available. I have to take this
Yes.
call. And it was amazing how now that I got married and have a young kid too, it's amazing how if you just phrase that to people, they respect it off the
Yeah.
bat. And otherwise, they'll kind of run all over you, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're all human. We all have things going on, but unless you say something or mention it or talk about it with your clients, they don't know.
Right.
They just think you're a machine, right? Running 24/7. But we have to remind everybody that we are humans. We're moms, we're dads, we're all trying to do it together. So, yeah.
Well, I want to talk about something that we mentioned in the intro, right? You've got an unbelievable social media presence. How do you go about leveraging that, your personal brand and your business, but two for like your clients, right? Like how are you utilizing that to help market their properties and help them show what's available in Charlotte?
Sorry, you said how do I leverage my social media?
Yeah.
Yeah, so about a year and a half ago, I wound up hiring a VA to help me with my social media because it was something that I knew that I wanted to step into, but didn't really have the time or the expertise on it. I wasn't consistent with it. And as you know, in this business, consistency is key with everything that we're talking about across the board. And um, so I hired my VA to help me, and he was able to help me set up content pillars, what to talk about, what to post. He crafted the posts for me. We set time, different times and things like that to post. But beyond my VA and what I do on social media and the way that I market my clients' homes, that really boils down to my photographer, my videographer, and my stager. All three of them are my backbone and my key to making those homes look the way they do on social media when I do post them. And so having that network of people in the agent world and connecting with them on social media, whether that's here in North Carolina or nationally, being able to get those homes out to them on Instagram and Facebook, which are the two that I use the most because I'm too old for TikTok and but Instagram and Facebook. I mean, everyone has their main platforms, right? But mine just happen to be Instagram and Facebook. So building those relationships with agents all over the country is key. And then once you have that and you're able to post these homes, then you are getting it out to essentially more agents than you could ever imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
And you also have everybody sitting there at the end of the day going like this, right? And they're seeing the homes and everything. So what you're saying there is if we start seeing TikTok dances, that's like an SOS. We need to be like, Kristen, are you okay?
Are you okay? Yeah, if you start seeing me TikTok dance, there's something wrong. There's something else going on. So maybe my girls, when they get a little bit older, they can leverage the TikTok for me because I still can't get a hold of it. But Facebook and Instagram has worked out very well. I also do a little bit of YouTube here and there, but again, YouTube is a whole nother game. That's a whole nother full-time job almost to build up a YouTube channel. That's very hard to do. And I have my VA working on it. But again, unless you're doing, longer videos, people go to YouTube to be educated. They go to the Instagram for the instant gratification. So putting those 9-minute YouTube videos up and then, cutting all those shorts from Instagram, I mean, that's great. And it produces so much content and so much education for people, but it is very hard and time consuming. And like you said, with me being a mom and how do I balance it all, I just have to pick and choose what's working the best for me at the moment in my business and not chase any shiny objects, right? And just focus on what's working and the consistency, because for me, I'm an Enneagram 7. And so if I see a shiny object somewhere, I'm grabbing at it. I'm trying to do everything. And that's where everything falls apart, right? Because if you're trying to talk to everybody, essentially you're talking to nobody, and you have to stay focused and in your niche. And I've learned that over the past few years. And that's what also has helped me grow, is that I've just doubled down on what's working now and have ignored the shiny objects.
So a lot of times in sales in general, but certainly in real estate and mortgage and stuff, right? We see people feel like, I have to do it because if I don't do it, it won't be to my liking. You're talking about hiring a virtual assistant, using mentors. We've had the pleasure of working together on stuff. I know you use a transaction coordinator, right? Mm-hmm. How did you come to the realization of, I can't do it all. I've got to allow other people that are experts in different parts to run with what they're great at?
Yeah. Well, it was a conversation with my mentor, Andy. And then also my previous real estate coach, who I'm still in contact with, and I actually teach classes for her now in her coaching cohort, Marissa Boyle, having conversations with both of them and them telling me that I'm at the point where I need to start delegating, right? You get to a point in your business where you can't handle everything, and then you start missing the mark on certain things. Things start falling through the cracks. Your systems start falling apart because you're not able to do everything by yourself. And so when I realized that I also hit a plateau of what I was making in a year, and I wanted to get above that. And I asked both of them, how do I do that? And when they took a look at my systems and my business, and we had those conversations, they both said, you need to delegate. You need someone to take over your social media. You need someone to take over, transaction coordinator, by far number one transaction coordinator, which that really did help. But being a type A person, letting go of those things was very hard. But when you have your mentors who do $75 million plus a year, you listen to them, right?
Yeah.
And you just do it, and you lean into your groups. And I, found the best VA through, my real estate agent groups for Fast Forward Movement. And I found my TC through my mentor, Andy. So they have all worked out very well.
Awesome. Yeah. I think that's I totally relate to that, right? Like probably 7 or 8 years ago. You know Amanda, who's our loan partner that helps us with everything on the back end. And the greatest piece of advice I ever got came from her when she looked at me and said, "Get the hell out of my loans." I said, "All right, yes, ma'am, I'm out of here."
Yeah. See ya.
Don't want to make you mad. I'm gone.
Nope. That's so funny.
Well, cool. How do you? What's your prediction for 2026 here in Charlotte and how it all shakes out?
Ooh, I am predicting a bang in 2026. I think that just from the conversation that I've had with people in my pipeline, they are ready. They're ready to sell. They're ready to buy. I don't know what it is about coming off these 2 and 3% interest rates that people have, but they're ready. They're ready to let it go, and they're ready for something bigger and better, or they're ready to downsize as well. So when we are thinking about major life changes like babies, divorce, marriage, job transfers, right? Those are all huge milestones in people's lives, and they all cause people to move. And sometimes you just can't, escape that. And that's why I think in 2026, people are about to make some major moves based on life changes. And those are the types of things that us as agents follow with our pipeline and on social media, because when you can get ahead of that game, you come to the people who are ready to move, then you're already one step ahead and you're ready to help them. You've already got the numbers in place. You've already got the plan in place. You've got the system in place, and you're like, let's rock and roll. And so people see that, and that's why it's so important. And I'm a huge person in sphere of influence and keeping up with your sphere and spoiling your sphere, and really just keeping tabs on people's lives in a very genuine and natural way. And I think that's 2026 is going to be a great year all around. I can't predict what's going to happen with interest rates, but I'll tell you what, as an agent who has seen a lot of different markets in the past 8 years, I don't base my business around it. I don't anymore. I know the service that I give my clients. I know the experience that my clients have. And now that my business is 100% word of mouth and referrals, interest rates aren't going to impact that for me personally. So.
Yeah. It's amazing as we get a little further away from the COVID time period, right?
Mm-hmm.
One year after, 2 year after, these people are never going to give this up. This is the cheapest money they'll ever see, right? Blah, blah, blah. They're never going to give it up. You know what's amazing? In the United States of America now, there are more people with 6% interest rates on their mortgages than 3% interest rates on their mortgages.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
That came out recently. We just hit that threshold of crossing on the charts. So it's very interesting to see. And to your point, exactly what you said, life goes on. Things happen, so that definitely does drive the moves.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Let's have a couple fun questions here before we wrap this up.
Yes.
You and your husband, Brandon, you get a night to yourselves. We got a date night. Where are we going to dinner?
Oh gosh. Okay. There's so many great places that we love. We live in Lake Norman area, but we go into Charlotte for date nights all the time. We love the Plaza Noda area. We love restaurants. We love the Crunkleton. We love Supperland. We love Everandalo. So that's our favorite area to go to when we're feeling like a good night out.
Awesome. Yeah. Feeling a little fancy, going, getting dapper and heading down to the big city.
We love dressing up and heading into Charlotte. It's so much fun to go in and just every time we go, there's a new restaurant that pops up or a new bar or a new lounge. And, we're a little bit past the 40 mark, right? So if we were 20 years younger, we would still be hanging out in South End and Loso and all those fun places. But for some reason, we gravitate towards the Noda Plaza Midwood area every time.
Yeah, it's amazing how many not only new restaurants pop up, but like new great restaurants, are popping up every week, it seems like, in this town.
Yes,
Awesome.
Absolutely. There's 2 good ones I'm just going to say because I think the people need to know. Rada and Leilula Hall. Leilula Hall is also owned by Supperland, so a very similar style, but amazing cuisine. And then Rada, I want to say, made the Michelin guide when they came here to Charlotte. And the food there is fantastic. The ambiance, the service, 10 out of 10. I've been twice, and I can't wait to go back again.
So we've gotten like 5 incredible recommendations from you. I know one question. Let's go. That's perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Along that same line, we are fueled by caffeine in this business. Go to coffee shop. Let's start in Lake Norman and then perhaps where you're meeting clients in Charlotte.
Yeah, so up here in Lake Norman, I love the Summit Coffee over here off of Samfur. I love matcha, and so they do some amazing flavors for matcha, and everything is, natural and delicious, and so I love Summit Coffee. When I go down into Charlotte, I love Amelie's. I
Yeah.
know it's been around for a long time, and I know they're known for their desserts and things like that. But that's probably one of my favorite places to grab a cup of coffee if I'm down in Charlotte. I know they have two locations. The one off of Park Road is the one that I
Yeah.
normally go to. Um, so yeah, those are probably two of my favorites.
Awesome. Can't go wrong with either. There's
No.
as someone who outside of my family and mortgages, I'm a big golf nerd, and all these guys on the PGA Tour, there's this big coffee subculture. And so I was watching an interview recently where they were talking about, hey, let's hit some of the best spots on some of the towns you guys are going through on
Yeah.
tour. Summit Coffee got number one for Charlotte. So if these guys are talking about it, we're all talking about it. Go to Summit Coffee.
Summit
Get
Coffee,
you a cup of juice right there.
right. I think I don't know if it's their original, but they have a really cute location down in Davidson.
Oh, okay. I haven't
Yeah,
been to
yeah,
that one.
on Main Street.
Davidson's a great little town.
Oh, I just saw a reel on Instagram at when the snow came, and they said this Hallmark town or this town finally got its Hallmark moment, and it showed the Main Street in Davidson with the snow covered over the campus of Davidson College, and they just preserved Main Street from, whenever it was built back in the
Right.
day. It's just such a beautiful, quaint little town, and I do love it. It's my dream zip code over there.
Love it. Well,
Yeah.
let's wrap up on this one. We've talked
Okay.
about the relocation that comes into our great city, right? What is the number one thing that gets underestimated by people who are moving to Charlotte?
Oh, that's a good question. For people, what they underestimate. So I think they underestimate just how diverse we really are down here because yes, you're moving to the South, and essentially everyone has their opinion about what the South is like and what Southerners are like, and I get that. But Charlotte is really a big mixing pot of people, and it's become
Yeah.
that way in the past few years. And I think, and even like we were talking about the growth of the restaurants and the spots in Charlotte, the diversity of food that we have seen pop up that we'd never seen in the past 10 years, I think is a testament to the people that are moving down here from all different walks of life. And I think that people, they underestimate that we're all not Southerners down here. We're a mix of everything. So while, people may have this idea of what Southern life is like, I think Charlotte has proven itself to be a big city, a bigger
Yeah.
city. Yeah. So
I completely agree with you on that. It's wild you actually don't meet that many native Charlotteans, right? Like when I first graduated college, I got a job in IT recruiting before I got into mortgages, and I started, you're meeting with everybody every day. I'm like, is anyone from this town? And then you get into real estate, and you're like, oh, here's where all y'all are hanging out. You guys are all working in real estate if you're from Charlotte. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah, the Charlottenians that I've known that have been born and raised here are real estate agents in Charlotte. That's funny.
they know it. They've seen it grow up and become a let's face it, it's a big city now. So it's
Yep.
cool to see.
Yeah.
Well, Kristen, it's been awesome hanging out with you and talking to you today. How can people get in touch with you? Let's maybe throw your social handles out there and an email, phone number, and let's get out of here.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute honor. I love talking about real estate and all things real estate. You can find me at homes@heritageav.com, which is my email address. heritageav_Kristen is my Instagram handle, and that's my most popular platform that I use. And then 704-246-9206 is my phone number. Call or text me anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Kristen. We
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye.